The distillery was built in 1821 by Peter Brown with 2 stills and started production in 1825 with around 4,500 liters per year. His son William Brown took control in 1868, and in 1872 he rebuilt the distillery, increasing the production to 227,000 liters per year. The distillery stayed in the Browns family after William Brown's death, and in 1898 the production was increased to 454,000 liters. In 1932 the company was sold to Scottish Malt Distillers, the predecessor to Diageo. In 1962 the distillery was completely modernized. Then in 1971 a second distillery was built, which was called Linkwood B, with steam-heated stills. By 1985, the old distillery was only used for experimentation to study the effects of copper reflux and the worm tubs on the spirit, then demolished in 2012. Linkwood produces 5.5 million liters per year, but the bulk of it goes into Johnny Walker and White Horse blend, and we see very few Diageo bottlings other than the 12-year-old. Gordon and MacPhail are one of the few independent bottlers that are doing the Linkwood brand. Well, welcome to Noel's World of Whiskey, and I promised we would try to get this guy, Linkwood Distillery. Oh, where's that? Where's Linkwood? Probably one of the least known distilleries, and yet one of the bigger production distilleries. A Diageo distillery today, but it has actually quite an incredible history, and it's amazing for one of the first legal distilleries in Scotland that we don't have more people that know the word Linkwood, as you would know the word Glenlivet, Glenfiddich, Macallum's, Singleton. But anyways, we did a Gordon and MacPhail distillery. They actually own this distillery, the independent bottler, Gordon and MacPhail, and we did this. I think this was the last review, and that was, of course, Ben Roman, and this is Linkwood Distillery. Now, I've done a little prep work and did a little bit of an introduction into the distillery, a bit of history, but really brief. You can read on this. Really like the packaging on this here. They've done a good job. Gordon MacPhail always seems to do a good job, but just a real quick introduction there, just to kind of put you in perspective. If you didn't look at the intro, this distillery was started it's a Speyside distillery, and it was started by Peter Brown. We're in 1821, and it took a while to get started. It was 1825 when it was actually legalized. So I'm trying to remember, the Excise Act was it 23? But anyways, 1821 it was built, and I think they kind of held on a little bit to make sure that everything was legal, that they were doing things legal. But anyways, this distillery stayed in the Brown's family. I mean, it basically went from Peter Brown to his son. And his son, I believe that was William Brown, if I remember right. We'll just take a quick peek, but I'm pretty sure it was William Brown. And William Brown rebuilt the distillery. It started off, it was like 4,500 liters per year, a couple stills, small distillery, and he jumped it up to 227,000 liters per year. And then eventually, when he passed away, the family formed the Linkwood Glenlivet Company, and it was up to 454,000 liters per year. And eventually, and it was Cameron, a fellow by the name of I think it was was it John Cameron? But anyways, his last name was Cameron. He basically Inns Cameron, and he took over and became the managing director. And when he passed away, the distillery went on to there was the Scottish Malt Distillers, and the history of Scottish Malt Distillers, because they became United Distillers, DCL, and Diageo, etc., etc. The interesting thing about it was that it had a pretty good run. It had its off and ons, like all the distilleries, World War One, World War Two, shortage of barley, etc. The whiskey lock. I remember rightly, the thing was expanded. I believe it was in '62. It was completely rebuilt. And then 71, there was a second distillery that was built alongside of it. So you had Linkwood A, Linkwood B. And of course the new distillery was their production distillery. And I think in the 80s, they used the older distillery. They actually stopped production on it, and they used the older distillery more for experimenting with the effects of reflux. Copper reflux, on the spirit, as well as the worm tubs. The old one had worm tubs. It was an old style distillery. I mean, it started off with a water wheel, so it tells you how it had history. But they played around with whiskeys to get them right, and I think it was I'd say 2012 they demolished that distillery, and of course the new distillery, it's all shell and condenser cooling, etc. And huge production. New distilleries, 5.5 million liters or whatever. That's our high speeder on Linkwood Distillery. Basically, one of the main distilleries in the Elgin Speyside Whiskey City. People in Elgin know about Linkwood, but most of you don't. I was introduced to it a few years back. Didn't know Linkwood. It was Ralphie. Yeah. Ralphie, maybe, I don't know, possibly one of the Jasons, or certainly Aquaviti. One of the more prominent reviewers in that did mention they really like this stuff, so it got me kind of interested. And that's how I got into the Gordon MacPhail, because you cannot find a bottling of Linkwood. It is impossible to find one in our area over here in Canada, in especially BC, Vancouver Island. This was it. Thank God for Gordon MacPhail. But fortunately, a 15, and I think it's really well worth reviewing this one here. Not just because I really kind of like the Gordon MacPhail independent bottlers, I like what they do, but I think this is a whiskey that we really should pay attention to, and the fact that it is kind of a sad situation that is Gordon MacPhail. People like that fortunately have a good relationship with that distillery, considering it's Diageo, and they seem to somehow be able to get these bottlings. So my understanding, they have a 25-year-old out as well. So that's it for here. Let's get into it. Nice box. Kind of like this box. So, I've got to kind of get up close here, show you the box. So there's the box, and let's just turn that thing around so we can see it. There's your Linkwood there, and there is your box. And so we kind of flip the top up there, and it's solid. It's a solid box. They do a good job, and we pull it out. And we will just sort of give you a little bit of a look at the color. My understanding is this is bourbon casks, ex-bourbon casks. I believe there's some charring that goes on here, but when we do the test, we'll kind of know. Finished in sherry, I believe. It's finished in the sherry butts there, so there you are. Linkwood. Okay, let's get into the review. Now, let's give it a pour. And we will, nice color to it. I believe if I read this, naturally colored, non-chill filtered. Ticks off a few points. And the interesting thing about this is a lot of the reviewers, Trenny and C, I believe, did one on this, but it was 43%. I think Jason did one also 43. I got a 46. So I got one up on them. Anyways, there's your color. Not overly dark, but I believe you will say it is a natural color there. So there you are. Give you a chance to, and I'm not holding it so close to the camera. I'm getting a bad habit of holding it close to the camera, and we're not getting a good look at that because of the type of lens I'm using. I'm using I think I've got a 30 lens on there right now, so I've got to hold it a little more distant. But anyways, let's give it the nose here. So So right off the bat, lots of sweet and sour here. Lemon rind. And we're getting some, I'm getting some grainy notes here too with it, so even almost a bread dough. So I've done the nose on this quite a bit, I'll be honest with you. So this isn't the first time I've nosed this stuff. So not that I was rehearsing, I just do a lot of nosing of whiskey. It's I like doing the nosing aspect of whiskey. Scotch is just fascinating that you can go from one to another. They could be distilleries next door to one another, but it's all about the yeast and the shape of the stills and the finishing and a bit of the aging, you know. I find that aged whiskeys, I can get some intensity with some of the aged ones I've got there. So this is a 15er. And I'm getting that trifle bit of smoke, and I believe it's the charring of the barrels. I think they really manage their barrel finishing, this company, Gordon and MacPhail. So you got to remember, Linkwood has sold them this whiskey. Now, my understanding with Linkwood is the bulk of their whiskey is going into Johnny Walker. Probably the Green Label. I've even read it on the Green Label. And obviously maybe there's a few others it sneaks in, but on Green Label you can actually see Linkwood Distillery. They also go into Whitehorse. There's a few other blends that it goes into. So it is really hard for a distillery that puts out 5.5 million liters per year. They don't do a lot of bottlings. I think the Flora and Fauna bottling they do is a 12-year-old. When I get over to Scotland there next year, hopefully I'll get an opportunity to, because Linkwood would certainly be in an area where I'll be doing some touring and that. But I'm just, I'm interested just to kind of get more information on it. Now, they don't have a visitor center as of this review, but who knows, they could be building one there. It was supposed to be, there was thoughts of putting a visitor center there, but it's still more of an industrial site. So you'll see some of the pictures I show in the review there. So anyways, I always seem to get just a little bit of that smoke there mixed in with the sweet and sour notes. Now there is some dried fruit happening here, and I mentioned the kind of a lemon lime more maybe mixed in with that dried fruit. So peaches. I always get peaches in this one here, by the way. Okay, to the palate. Give it a good chew. Oh, look at the legs on that. Oh, I don't know. I have to show you the legs. I don't know if you're going to be able to see them. We'll just give it a little bit of a swirl here. I'm hoping you can see them. I know if I hold it too close, you don't see them, so that's why I'm going to hold it a little farther away this time. And hopefully you can see them. Anyways, I made my effort. Rhubarb and pineapple. And I got something nutty going on there. I am just tasting a wee slight bit of licorice in the background there, so I'm not sure. Again, I don't think it's smoke. I think it's the charred barrels. This was finished in sherry casks. It matured in bourbon. I'm not going to say it's first fill bourbon. I'm not sure what Gordon MacPhail, but Gordon MacPhail do a good job on their casks, so I'm going to give them the credit that if this is a first fill, great, but it's second fill at the worst with Gordon and MacPhail. I haven't had bad casks from them. Maybe I've been lucky. I don't know. Maybe I should have said that. But I've been fortunate that I've had lots of Gordon MacPhails, and they usually have good cask finish. Let's see. I would say we're going to say first filled bourbon, because I'm getting a lot of sweeter notes now. I'm getting the honey. The honey. I always think of the song Tupelo Honey, but back in Alberta, we have some interesting honeys back there, but the one that I relate to with this is more the clover. It's just a real simple clover honey sweetness to it, and maybe a wee bit of the vanilla fudge there too. With the wood, I think you're getting a lot of the sweetness at 15 years and that. So, but lots of sweet and sour, very balanced whiskey. This is a very pleasant whiskey. It's a 46er, as compared to the reviews that I'd read on it were 43s. So again, fortunate I got the 46er. It's definitely got some impact to it. I mean, pardon me, I've got a little bit of a chill happening. We had this hot weather, and I got a little bit of a chill. So our weather's been all over the place. We've had a heat wave, and then of course it cools down, and so I've got to kind of watch because I got some allergies, and I'll get the old nose running and things like that. But my apologies. So anyways, this is definitely got a well balanced presentation to it. The sweet and sours, the layers of sweet and sours there, and I used the rhubarb and pineapple. I think that's a really good introduction into the palate there, with a slight bit of smoke, licorice notes in the background. I'll stick with the honey, the clover honey. I did in the nose there. I mentioned the citrus notes, the lemon rind maybe, or even lemon lime. There is bits of that going on with the pineapple. So let's go for the finish. A lot of the reviews say dryness. I'm going to say it is kind of approaching dry for me. It's approaching dry, but the finish is definitely on the medium side, and almost a repeat of what I got earlier. The sweet and sour notes. There is a little more prominence to the wood now, and certainly the not a sharpness to it. Very slight sulfur notes to this, but more on the pleasant side. I'd say maybe a savory sulfurness to it. Maybe even give it a little bit of a meatiness to it on the finish, but really pleasant. There's nothing wrong with it. When I mention sulfur, I can describe sulfur as something I'm not enjoying, or sulfur that I'm actually enjoying. It's something that we also acquire taste for, by the way. You look at something like a Craigellachie. I mean, that's what makes that whiskey. So, but and some of your Glenfarclases too. But I think that it's not as prominent as let's say. Some of the Glenfarclas I've had, or some of the Craigellachie's I've had. It's just you can just notice it. It's just there. So overall, I think it's ready to add a little bit of water. So let's do that. Let's give it the water. And we have our water here. So let's go at it. So again, this is a distillery that doesn't have. It just doesn't have a lot of, marketing, or, you don't read about it much. You don't, the word Linkwood, a lot of people never even heard of it when I mentioned it to them. I mean, I have mentioned it to some of my friends. They just, Linkwood? No, never heard of it before. And yet, such a big production distillery, like Strathclyde and distilleries like that are focused maybe more on the grain whiskeys and all that. They're huge. They're huge industrial sites. We have a tendency to remember the smaller distilleries, Strathisla, Cardew. We certainly know all the Isla distilleries, and the Isle of Skye, Talisker, the Tobermory's, and of course the Lechegs, Isle Mull, Iran. So these distilleries we seem to know, the Orkneys, Scapa, and of course your Highland there. It's interesting how a distillery like this, so big, is kind of obscure, but Diageo has it as an industrial site, and it's a shame because I'm really enjoying this. So let's see what the water does. We've let it sit for a while, 15 years. Let's give it the nose, and I'm trying to clear my nose. My apologies. Oh my golly! So really, the honey, blasts of honey, and very slight sulfur notes. They're savory sulfur, and yeah, sweet and sours. Bringing out the sweet and sours, boy. Kind of almost amplifies what I've mentioned. I mean, because it's 46, it allows you to add. But I only did a few drops of water. I mean, there was a perfect balance right here because it really seems to accentuate the sweet and sours. Okay, again with water, the palate. Now we're getting into more of a candy finish, vanilla fudge. But now I'm getting a bit of the dryness too. So now I added water and I'm getting the dryness. So the sherry is coming out. So again, rhubarb, and that rhubarb's been there the whole time. The rhubarb and the pineapple, it hasn't disappeared. So that's certainly one of the I would say one of the bigger notes I've noticed this time around. I've had this before; it's always been there, but it's really dominating this drink here, right to the finish with water. It can take water, by the way. That's what I like about it. Just a few drops. Still really well balanced, very well balanced drink, and I really like the legs on this. Even with the water, I could just see them there. There's some body to this. So I've read different reviews, and one of the reviews said thin. No, this is not thin. But remember, that was a 43. This is a 46. So, but there's some body to this. Is it as thick as, let's say, the Murray here, the Tullibardine Murray? No, it's not quite as thick as the Tullibardine Murray. It's a little bit lighter than that, but certainly. It's got some sweetness. Almost got the sweetness of the Glen Grant wood too. So, but I'm going to say this is another. Darn it! This is one that you've got to go after. Linkwood, Gordon and MacPhail. I'm going to say Gordon and MacPhail, Linkwood. I'm not. I haven't tried their bottling, the Diageo bottling, the 12. So I'm going to leave that one alone for now until I get a chance to find a bottle of that. But this guy here is worth going after. If you get the 46, 43's got good ratings on it. I haven't seen a bad review on the 43, but this one here by far is a strong player. Now I'm going to tell you just a little bit of history. Like I had a few years ago, I got this bottle, and I'm going to probably end up getting one just to put away. That's giving you a little bit of an idea how I'm going to score this. I want to put one of these away. Part of it was I've been sort of going back to whiskeys that, and it's not even anything to do with my reviewing. It has to do with my enjoyment of the different whiskeys. There's whiskeys I do not like, and I will probably review more of them. I have a tendency to favor certain whiskeys, then I've got to do a review. Now, they don't have to be over the top. They can be just something that, I kind of like that. I kind of like it. Or I really like it, But the ones that are bombs, I haven't done too many of them, I'll be honest, and maybe that's not fair. And I should. And it's not necessarily that they're bombs to other people, they might be just bombs to me. So what I'm going to say is that this guy here, I decided to do it because I found that this was one I would go back to. Let's say I had one of my bombs, a bad shot, I didn't like it. I might finish off with one of these. I might only have, one. That's all I need. One little shot. And it just has always been there to kind of, you know what? I like Scotch. Because there's the odd Scotch I've had that I say, God, I hate the taste of Scotch. It happens to all of us. Because it's just not, it could be an evening where you just don't have the palate for it, or it's just a Scotch you don't like, it doesn't agree with you, or it's a bad Scotch. That's possible, it's just a bad Scotch. But this guy, I've not experienced that. So I'm doing a review on it. I'm pretty sure I paid it was under $140. I think it was somewhere around the $135 to $139 area there. But I would say that we're looking at probably today, yeah, it's going to be somewhere between 140 and 150 Canadian in BC. So that puts me in the 86 bracket. I'm going to say it is an 86. It is a really nice whiskey. It's a typical sherry finish, not a sherry bomb. It's a very well balanced sherry finished whiskey. So I'm really highly recommending this. I think the price is right. I'm going to say that for a anywhere in the 140, 150, 15-year-old in BC, where our prices are a little higher, this is a player. So, I'm going to finish off by asking you to drink wisely, drink intelligently, do not drink and drive. Until the next time, so long.